Thank you so much to Chairman Williams, to Co-Chairman Fairchild and Daniels, and to all of our fellow laborers in the gospel of our Lord Christ. And to each of you, our Father's children, we are glad tonight and we are happy to be privileged to stand before you and to have had the privilege to share in what our ears have already heard and our hearts have already felt. I shall be very brief tonight, and I would ask of you your prayers with us and for us, and that you might note with us from the book of Job.
All right.
Job, the 2nd chapter, verses 7 and 8. Job, the 2nd chapter, verses 7 and 8. And there these words are written. So went Satan forth from the presence of the Lord, and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his foot unto his crown. And he took him a potsherd to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among the ashes. And he took him a potsherd to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among the ashes. And with these few verses of scripture in mind, I would that you might pray with us and think with us for just a brief while on this thought: a trip to Job's house. A trip to Job's house. My brothers and sisters, I've just returned from a trip to the house of a man whose name has become synonymous with suffering. I've returned from a trip to the house of a man who has suffered, who has moaned and groaned. I've been to the house of a man where I saw agony in its extreme. I saw the total absence of happiness. I saw suffering, moaning and groaning. I saw a man having shaved his head and having gone down in sackcloth, scooting around in piles of ashes. I've been to the house of a man who surprisingly was cited by God as one who was a perfect and upright man. One of the great giants, one of the great patriarchs of the Old Testament. Brothers and sisters, I've been to Job's house. And while there, I've seen some things that might be too hard for some of you to believe. But since they say that seeing is believing, I've come back to get you in hopes of persuading you to go back with me and let your eyes behold what my eyes have already seen. Come and go back with me if you're man enough. Come and go back with me if you're woman enough. Come and go back with me to Job's house. Since I've been to Job's house, I shall never be quite the same. But I want to invite you to go back because I feel fervently persuaded that Job's house will have a maturing effect upon each and every one of us in this building. I'm persuaded that it will prove beneficial and highly profitable to you if you will come and go back with me to Job's house. Don't worry about transportation. There's a vehicle already parked out in the front of the Marriott Hotel. Don't worry about room because there's a seat on that vehicle for everyone who sits underneath this roof. Don't worry about the fare. The trip will cost you nothing but your spiritual imagination. Don't worry about getting lost. I'll do the driving. And since I've already been there, I know where every curve is located. It's not hard to find Job's house. You just get on Highway JOB and travel due east until you get down to the Mediterranean area. And as you travel down the highway, watch for a sign on the side of the highway that says, "Welcome to Uz." Turn off at the Uz exit, and you'll be in the vicinity of Job's house. We're on the highway now. Fortunately, everybody has decided to take that trip with me. We have enjoyed the scenic views as we travel down towards Job's house. Now we've arrived in the front of Job's house. And as we leave the vehicle, watch your step. We don't want anybody to fall. We don't want anybody on this trip to become hurt or wounded, because I feel that it would be to your benefit to make it inside of Job's house. Before you ring the bell, before you knock on the door, I think there are a few things that I ought to tell you. Nobody ought to go into Job's house unprepared. No one should go into Job's house without having first been prepared for the awesome things that you're going to see once you get inside. First of all, I think I ought to tell you before you ring the bell that you will be met at the door by a woman whose face has come twisted and distorted by suffering, by grief and sorrow, and by hostility even towards God. That woman that will meet you at the door will be Job's wife. Now, don't expect any hospitality from her. She's not in a hospitable mood. Don't expect her to treat you with great courtesy. Don't expect the red carpet treatment from her. You see, she's in a state of chaos. She's lost everything. Her little children that she remembered rocking in the cradle of her arms, her sons and her daughters, whom she nursed upon her bosom, have been suddenly destroyed. There's been a series of calamities. There's been a series of disasters, one constantly after the other. This woman is frustrated, and she has allowed her disaster and her misfortune to make her become bitter. And she's mad with the world. Now don't bother her. Don't worry her. Treat her with a long-handled spoon. Stay your distance. When she opens the door, she probably won't even escort you to Job's room. She'll probably just turn her head and point to where Job is located. Oh, my brothers and sisters, don't bother her. Don't ask her for any water. Don't ask her to show you where the bathroom is. No, don't bother her. You see, she just came out of the room from telling her husband Job to curse his God and die. Now, if she told her husband to curse God and die, don't you bother, because there's no telling what she won't tell you. Secondly, I think I ought to tell you that I hope for your own good and for your own benefit that you have a rag, a towel, a handkerchief, something to put up over your nose. Because the minute that the door of Job's house is open, there'll be a hideous and a deplorable odor that will almost gag you and knock you back from Job's door. Put something over your nose, because it doesn't smell too good in Job's house. It's smelling, it's stinking in Job's house. Get you something to hold over your nose. My brothers and sisters, there's a man inside who's fallen victim to the sinful grasp of Satan. His hand has been laid upon Job, and Job has been stricken with sore boils. The scripture says, from the sole of his feet to his crown. Some said that this condition was called elephantiasis. Some condition that would harden parts of the flesh and cause yellow and green pus to be emitted. He was covered with boils from the crown of his head to the sole of his feet. His brow, his face was covered with boils, bleeding boils, pus-ridden boils, yellow and green pus, some dripping down into his eyes. His eyes matted up, his face, his neck, his body covered with sores. The man in Job's house is in a terrible shape. He's in a sad condition. My brothers and sisters, when you get inside, as you go in, hurry in. Don't hold the door open too long, because that odor will draw flies. There are flies swarming, waiting and looking for a crack or some small crevice that they might make their entry into Job's house, so that they may attach themselves to his sick and distorted body to blow him with worms. As you go inside, don't snatch the cover off of him. If he's covered up, if there's a sheet on him, let it stay on him. Don't fool with the cover. Don't fool with any of the coverings on Job. You see, the yellow and the green pus and the dried blood has dried and stuck to the cloth. It has stuck to the covering. And if you snatch it off, you'll snatch off some of his flesh. Let the covering stay on. It's a sad situation in Job's house. You won't smell Lysol in Job's house. There is not the odor of pine sol in Job's house. The servants don't even fool with him. His wife has turned from him. He's in a sad and tragic condition. Well, brother preacher, why in the world would you carry us from the Marriott Hotel away from all of this beauty, from all of these twinkling and shining and sparkling chandeliers? Why would you transport us from such lovely surroundings and from such a beautiful environment to take us down to a terrible place like this? Place filled with a stinking odor. A place where our ears have grown weary and weak from moaning and groaning, and our eyes have grown weak from the sights of horrible and horrifying circumstances. Why would you transport us from the National Baptist Congress of Christian Education to carry us to such a place as Job's house? My brothers and sisters, I've carried you to Job's house for several reasons. Once I've shared those, I'll sit down. Everybody before they die ought to travel at least once to Job's house. Don't die before you make at least one trip to Job's house. It will benefit you to go there. The first thing that Job's house will teach you is that you'll never know what condition in this life you'll come to. Job's house will teach you to be careful how you treat people, because you never know whose hand you'll have to receive water from before you leave this world. A trip to Job's house will tell us that no matter how good you might be doing now, conditions and circumstances can change in the twinkling of an eye. Tragedy can replace happiness. Sorrow can replace joy. Weakness can replace strength. Sickness can replace sound health. Oh, my brothers and sisters, a trip to Job's house will teach you to don't get wrapped up in yourself. Don't get wrapped up in your beauty and your looks, because those external things about us can fade away. But not only that, a trip to Job's house will teach us also that righteous folk can and will suffer. Good folk, godly folk, God-fearing folk, upstanding, righteous folk will suffer. A trip to Job's house will teach us that no matter how prayerful you are, you'll still run into some situations that will cause you agony and grief. A trip to Job's house will teach us that having God in your life is not a guarantee from trouble. Don't you remember, as Reverend told us in the sermon prior, that the disciples had Jesus on the ship with them, riding on the same boat that they were on, but yet the storm still came. Having God, having the Lord with you is not a guarantee from trouble. Oh, but when you got him with you, it is a guarantee in trouble. Yes, yes. But a trip to Job's house will also serve to teach us that no matter how bad off we are now, there's always somebody else worse off than you. A trip to Job's house will help us to learn that we should not wallow in self-pity or drown ourselves in the waters of self-pity. For there's always somebody who's worse off than we are. I've come to the conclusion that there is at least one Job on every block. There is at least one Job on every street. In every neighborhood, there is at least one Job. Somebody who's worse off than you. Since I've been to Job's house, I've come to the conclusion that my problems weren't really as bad as I thought they were. Since I've been to Job's house, I've come to understand that my problems are not really as grave as they once seemed. But that is not all. We ought also make a trip to Job's house so that we will come to understand that sometimes friends whom we thought were friends will not really prove to be the friends who we thought they were. Don't you remember that Job had 3 friends? When they learned of his tragic illness, they came to see him. Eliphaz was in the crowd. Zophar and Bildad were in the number. When they visited Job, they talked to him and said to him, Job, you must have done some great sin to have finally caused all of this to come down upon you. Yes, they sat there for several days just looking at him and staring at him. And when they left, Job felt worse than he did before they came. Now, my brothers and sisters, I grant you that it is sad at Job's house. It is tragic at Job's house. The circumstances are grave at Job's house. Yes, it is stinking in Job's house. And yes, there is a man there who is physically deteriorating. A man there whose body is literally rotting. But you ought to go to Job's house lastly, so that you will come to understand that no matter how tragic circumstances are, the great God whom we serve can fix Job's house situations. Can I get a witness here? Somebody run and tell the suicidal maniac. Somebody run and tell the girl that's getting ready to end it all. Somebody go tell the young man who's given up on living that before he dives off the bridge, before she takes an overdose of pills, before they put a loaded gun to their heads and pull the trigger, or a shotgun barrel in their mouths and pull the trigger, tell them to go to Job's house, and their perspective will certainly take a change. We need to go to Job's house so that we will come to realize that God specializes in things that seem impossible, and that he and only he can do what no other power can do. We've been at Job's house, and I know you've grown weary. Are you ready now to go back to the sparkling chandeliers? Are you ready to go back to the fragrant odors of a Marriott hotel? But don't leave yet. Don't leave Job's house just yet. If you leave now, you'll leave him sick. You'll leave him in great affliction. And that's only half of the story. You need to stay there until you hear Job say, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. You need to stay there until your ears can hear Job said with his own mouth, through all of my appointed time, I'm going to wait until my change comes. Yes, stay there. And if you stay there long enough, I wish I could get you to stay there one more minute. I believe one more minute would be all that's necessary. I wish that I could get you to stay here one more minute. I know that you are in a hurry, and I know that the hour has grown late, and I know that you've grown tired, and some have become sleepy. But I wish you would stay here long enough. I believe if you'd stay here one more minute, you'd see the Lord step in to what once was a tragic situation. Can I get a witness here? And you'd see the Lord take charge. Can I get a witness here? If you stay here one more minute, you'll see darkness turn into light, weakness turn into strength, sickness turn into good health. Can I get a witness here? Stay here a little while longer, and you'll come to discover that no matter how I try, the Lord can wipe all tears from my eyes. Can I get a witness? Oh, Lord, I'm closing here, but I'm so glad that there's hope
for Job's house. And that's important. Don't leave here without knowing that there's hope for Job's house. Because if you leave here without knowledge that there's hope for Job's house, you leave here doubtful if there's any hope for your house. Can I get a witness? Yes, sir. So stay here. Yes, sir. And you will discover that God can change darkness into light, midnight into high noons. Can I get a witness here? Stay at Job's house until you see him rise up from his sick bed and walk out stronger than he ever was before. Stay there until you see God turn tragedy into triumph. Stay there until you see God turn defeat into victory. Stay there until you see God, yes sir, straighten out what Satan had started. Can I get a fit here? A witness from you? Yes sir. I'm glad. Yes sir. We've been at Job's house long enough. Now let's go on back to the motel. But come here, Job, and stand here before this podium and give everybody just a few words of your testimony. Stand here and tell us whatever you have on your mind. Stand here and tell us what you want the crowd to know. Oh, no matter, stand here. Just stand right here. Oh, stand here in front of this podium and talk to everybody that's in this building tonight. Job, will you tell us what's on your mind? Yeah. Yes, sir. What I want to tell you is that no matter how dark the night is, and no matter how heavy the load is, stay with the Lord. No matter how heavy the burden is, and no matter how grave the problem is, keep your hand in God's hand. Can I get a witness here? Well, stay here, Job, and tell us one more thing. Well, Job would tell us, like the words of the song, trouble gets in my way, and I have to cry sometime. I lay awake at night. Is it anybody here that's ever laid awake at night? But tell us, Job, that's all right. Why is it all right? Why is it all right? Because Jesus will fix it. Is it anybody here that knows he will? Won't he fix it? Won't he fix it? Yes, he will. He will. Yes, he will. But tell us one more thing, Job. I'm like a ship that's tossed and driven. I'm battered by an angry sea. When the storm of life is raging and the billows and the fury falls on me, I wonder what I've done to make this race so hard to run. But I say to my soul, don't worry, the Lord won't he make a way? The Lord, he will. Won't he do it? Won't he do it? If you know he will. I'm closing here. please turn to somebody that's sitting or standing beside you and just reach out and shake their hand and hold their hand and look them in the eye and tell them these words. I tried. I tried. I tried him. He's able. Let him fix it for you, cause he knows, doesn't he know just what to do whenever you pray. Let him have his way, because he is my rock in a weary land. Jesus, my shelter in the time of storm. Jesus, my friend when I'm friendless. Jesus will fix it.
That's all right. Yeah.
I can't always understand why things happen like they do. Sometimes when I try to do the best I can, look like if it ain't one thing, it's always another. Sometimes I'm tossed and driven on this restless sea of time. Somber skies and howling tempests often succeed the bright sunshine, but in that land of perfect day, when the mist has rolled away, you may not understand it right now, but wait on the Lord. You may not understand it right now, but wait on the Lord. All of that you don't understand now, there'll come a day, won't there come a day when we'll understand it better.